one checking, everybody. Welcome to a Michael Fasusi Wednesday, or just Wednesday, here on House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Glad to be with you. It is, it kind of is what it is. We're going to have one of these recruiting conversations today. It won't be fun because the Longhorns aren't expected to pick up a 5-star today, but they could pick one up in a couple of days. We'll get into it. Guys, like, comment, subscribe to the page, get notifications. Jump into the super chat, sponsored by Specs. All live chat is sponsored by Specs. We do love them. Lisa will talk to you in a little bit. If I haven't said anything, I'm Jeff. He's Chad. I'm all out of sorts, Chad, as I try to, pay bills and set everything up and prepare everybody for a conversation that might not be a lot of fun today, but it probably will be very informative. Onir Richardson, by the way, will join us in about 10, 15 minutes. And we will dive into the conversation of the day, which is Texas doesn't get every 5-star. There are reasons for that. And just how upset should everybody be about this Michael Fasusi thing. Couple more things. Guys, get your ass on orangebloods.com. Today, the website, not Orange Bloods Live, special free promo. This doesn't even come out of our pockets. The 60% comes out of rivals' pockets. It's a chance to screw over rivals. Sign up for us today. 60% off your first year subscription. It basically leads up to pennies a day for the best conversation, the best coverage, the best fundraising, a little bit of everything over at orangebloods.com. You need to scan that QR code, though. Do it this week. Use that kickoff 2024 promo. And I promise you, we will show you a good time, and Chad will continue to raise fun money with Daily and Black today as part of their Texas baseball NIL deal. I bring it up. We just finished off the noon. So the first 2 days of fundraising are over. And by my calculation, we're right around $17,000 raised
nice.
In the first 2 days. 3 more days of auctions to go. Today's a big one because today is the lunch or dinner with you and me at Taste on Main.
Oh, well, then it is a big day. All right. So what is that? What's that starting bid? Like $7.50? What is
the minimum bid of $0? Starts at $0. We'll see where it goes. There is no minimum bid. But if you want to have lunch and or dinner, I guess it wouldn't be and. It's just one or the other. Lunch or dinner.
Because they do good. They do great lunch, dinner. There's a brunch. I mean, people could choose really any time of day.
Yeah. And all you got to do is over the course of like the next 12 months or whatever, and who knows, I'll come into town. We'll get it taken care of, but we'll sit down. We'll break bread. You'll get to taste like whatever pieces of the menu you want to. They'll probably want you to taste some select things that they'll have prepared. It is an amazing thing to just sit down at a restaurant and they just keep bringing you food. Taste this. Try that. You want some dessert? Have that. Want some wine? We can do that too. It's going to be a badass experience. All of the proceeds. There's no minimum bid on this. Every single dollar will go to the Texas Baseball NIL Fund as being raised by Daily and Black, the excellent law firm out of the Houston, Texas area. So if you want to get a bid in, put it on Twitter. Say, Trip, we have an early leader.
There it is. Come on. 3 solitary pennies.
He's on the board. Trip on 2 wheels is on the board. 3 cents is the leading bidder. Our first super chat of the day from Paul. Paul, sometimes you just got to go by Paul. For $9.99, let's brighten the day. I saw a restaurant offer 10% off the order like the Macho Man. I would like both of you to order a burger and fries in your best Macho Man voice.
That is fantastic. You want to go first, Catch?
Okay, hold on. I did not know.
Got to get into character. Look at this.
The thing is, I haven't done Macho Man in a while, so I feel like Macho Man's one of those things that after you had about 15 minutes of walking around doing your Macho Man, then it's in prime form, but it's a little bit like, ooh, yeah. I'm sitting here getting ready to order my hamburger, and I want bacon on that now. Double cheese. Don't you put a goddamn thing on that burger other than meat, cheese, bacon, and some pickles. Oh, yeah. Miss Elizabeth, make sure they get that right.
He said you have to order fries too, Mach. You got to order fries.
And queso on the fries, because I'm in the off season. Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I like that you think Macho had an off season. That's fantastic. Hey, the schedule Vince had him on back in the day, there was no off season at all. That did not exist. Oh, that was fantastic. All right, so that's about $5 of it. Then I need to come up with the other $5 of Paul's $10. All right, here we go. Ooh, yeah. When you talk about burgers, you're talking about beef. When talking about beef, you're talking about cows. What we're going to do is an avocado burger. That's right. Love avocado. Got to stay in this kind of incredible shape. Otherwise, Miss Elizabeth might start talking to Lex. Not that would actually happen. We're going to go with a burger, avocado. I like Ketch's idea of bacon. We're definitely going to get the bacon on there as the cream rises to the top. Let's do some curly fries. Yeah, because when you curl, you can curl it up like that. We're going to get it done. Burger, fries, freak out.
Paul, there you go.
There it is. There you have it. Wow. Didn't know that was happening today, but it is. But you know what, Catch? They may need to be in a good mood today because overall the day is not exactly going to be the day Texas fans wanted. Let's clarify for Vivek. Did Fasusi already declare for OU, although seems like a given? It has not happened yet, Vivek. 3 o'clock this afternoon at Louisville High School up in the Dallas area. It is going to happen. But, Catch, if people have been paying attention to Orange Bloods Live for any length of time, they understand that this may very well – this had a chance to go to the other side of the Red River the whole time, and ultimately that seems to be where this commitment is going to go today.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel like the Macho Man would go, "Oh no," as it relates to the Michael Fasusi announcement. Look, this thing's going to go down at 3 o'clock today. There's no way to get around it that Michael Fasusi is as good as any prospect in the state of Texas this year, even including DeCorian Moore. He's a prototype left tackle. He's a guy that projects as a possible first-round draft pick in 3 or 4 years. More like 4 years, right? Because he's still a high school senior. On the surface, like this just isn't good. Texas losing these types of talents to Oklahoma, it's not good. It continues a conversation of what the hell's happening in recruiting this year for Texas. I feel like we've done a million shows outlining all of this little nuance that why is Texas ranked in the top 5 in college football right now, and they're not reaping the rewards of that in recruiting the way they were when they were 5-7 and 8-5. It's a complicated conversation, more complicated than it would have been 12 months ago. Maybe less complicated or more complicated than it will certainly be in 12 months. Maybe some of this stuff that relates to finances and what can you afford on your 2 deep, and do you need 5 stars if you're going to pay over $1 million a year for a guy? Should that guy be playing right away? Can a college football program afford to have someone make $1.5 million before they ever see the field, waiting a year or two? There's so many tentacles to this. And again, Onir Richardson will join us in about 5 minutes because he had a bunch of questions for me, Chad, on his show, The Old Fashioned at 9 o'clock, and we didn't get through all of them. So there's a sense that there's still some conversation to be had. And look, man, like at its most basic, Texas is going to lose to Oklahoma, and I'm not sure that Texas is second. There's a sense. Orange Bloods talked to a source connected to the Fasusi camp last night, and it was a little like, hey, do we need to be there? Do we need to make plans to have somebody from Orange Bloods at Louisville High School? just in case. And the sentiment that we got was, hey, man, y'all probably shouldn't worry. It's down to OU and A&M anyway. So we've gone from, and I don't mean to like let the cat completely out of the bag, that if you're a Texas fan, maybe do something else with your time at 3 o'clock. But we've gone from this is the most important guy that Texas has to get. He's the highest rated guy. Texas leads for him. You brought him in. You're A&M, OU, you're doing this battling. And when we get to the finish line, there's a little bit of a whimper with an acknowledgement, I think, from the Texas side of things, from the people that I talk with, which is haven't really engaged on the NIL front. Looks like that kid's going to go for $1 million plus. And I just don't think that that's the discussion that they're prepared to get into right now with a guy they're not quite certain will play right away or maybe even within a year or two, which sounds blasphemous, Chad, in a way. What, Texas is so good they can't find a place for Michael Fasusi? Maybe not. I mean, it is not as cut and dry of a discussion as it was a few years ago when they were recruiting both Kelvin Banks and DJ Campbell. And it was like, come on down, guys. There's literally free parking spaces at the starters table. Come on in. Park your car. You're going to start day one. And in the end, DJ Campbell didn't even start day one because he didn't come in early. Cole Hudson took that job. Like, we're beyond the point where automatically true freshmen can just walk in and start. Can they not find a place for Michael Fasusi? It is a hell of a question to ever have to say out loud. And it seems like at the moment the answer for them is they're going to use their resources in other directions. And oh, by the way, Jonah Williams will make an announcement on Saturday, and the dopamine hit may come there. And then maybe on Sunday, if Texas has Jonah Williams and Oklahoma has Mike Fasusi, you engage in a conversation where if you had to choose between the two, which two guys or which of the two would you rather have if you're Texas? I think the Texas answer on this right now is Jonah Williams. How do I know that? Well, I think Texas is legitimately in it for Jonah Williams. And I don't know at the time of decision day at 3 o'clock today, Chad, I don't know that they're really in it for Fasusi.
Onir Richardson of Orange Bloods jumping in here in just a minute. As Ketch said, we did get a super chat regarding the Macho Man impersonations. Barbs for $5 thought Ketch was reenacting dropping a deuce on HD. Chad sold it with the hand gestures. I do have some hand gestures from time to time.
Gestures?
Almost makes up for the upcoming Fasusi swiping left. LMAO. Almost. Thank you, Barbs. That's what we're trying to do. Maybe just get your mind off of it a little bit.
Thank you. In general, does the Macho Man sound like a guy who's taking a crap?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. That's what I was going to say. You know, in a way that does help to sell it, whether you look at it as that or constipation or someone who's just been stabbed like between the ribs. Like if a normal person gets stabbed, you might get a little, and it, yeah. I mean, that's
the thing is, I've never sat down and go to the bathroom and gone, oh yeah, come on, turd, come on, oh, yeah. I've never done that.
Stared into a candle for an hour. That's still my favorite Mach line of all time. Stared into a candle for an hour. All right. I am seeing the great Onir Richardson ready to go. You ready to go?
I think Onir does a Macho Man, by the way.
Well, everybody does a Macho Man. Let's see how good it is. Onir Richardson, orangebloods.com. Onir, do you have a Macho Man for us?
Oh, yeah, it's going down here in Madison Square Garden. It's going to think that Miss Elizabeth. Shut up! Macho Man Randy Savage is here to save the day, and I'm here today on the House Divided with Jeff Ketchum and Chad Hastings. The great Chad Hastings there. He thinks he knows what he's talking about as relates to this recruiting thing, but not he doesn't. The Macho Man is going to be everywhere, my friends, so don't going everywhere. Damn.
I told you. The thing is, I've heard Onir do the Macho Man before, and
we had a we had a match off one time. Catch, remember?
You win, Uncle.
That was exciting. Madison Square Garden got mentioned like right at the beginning. That was good.
WrestleMania's going down. Oh, Hulk Hogan, I got something for you.
You got lust in your eyes. Yeah. All right. Onir Richardson, orangebloods.com. You two were having a great conversation today about recruiting and Michael Fasusi on the Old Fashioned Show, and then a couple of handsome guys interrupted with a recruiting show. So if y'all would like to continue your discussion, Catch, go right ahead.
Well, Onward, like you
Well,
said,
I can recap because I'm confused. And I feel like I speak for Texas fans, even though they didn't anoint me as the person that would be their representative. This summer, spring even, but especially afterwards, all we were hearing was, they might get everybody. We heard about, they might get Decorian Moore, and they might get Lockett, they might get Terry, they might get, the list was long, right? Fasusi. All we heard was, man, this thing might be a clean sweep out here. This is before we were even thinking about a Jonah Williams kind of consolation prize, because that's what that ends up being, like some sort of mega prize. And so we're in this Fasusi conversation, and I started off by asking Catch very simplistically, and you have to define getting beat or out recruited. But my question was it started off was, is Texas getting out recruited? Because for me, Catch, even if teams are spending more money, well, technically you're getting out recruited, right? I mean, in a form of it, you're losing the battles that you want to win. And I'm a little dumbfounded that we're at a point, and I see Jay Lee with the super chat, that we're going into another huge battle just a few weeks after the Decorian Moore loss, talking about another loss, but maybe they can make up for it later. It seems like there's a can that's getting kicked down the road, and it's hard to understand why this can is getting kicked down the road.
Well, I answered this question earlier. Are they getting out recruited for Michael Fasusi? Yeah, they're going to lose. And they're going to lose to Oklahoma. I would almost certainly guess. I mean, could A&M at the last hour come in and completely change that recruitment? Maybe. I think A&M's involved in the bidding on this deal. But if you look across the board, I mean, here's the top 10 in my state of Texas rankings, okay? You've got Decorian Moore going to Oregon at 1. You've got Fasusi likely going to Oklahoma at 2. You've got Devin Sanchez going to Ohio State at 3. I've got Lance Jackson at 4. He's going to Texas. Jonah Williams decides on Saturday. He's likely, I think, going to end up at Texas. That's certainly the suspicion at this point. You've got Ty Haywood at 6 going to Alabama. You've got Khalik Lockett going to Texas at 7. You got Keody Armstrong going to A&M at 8. You've got Riley Pettyjohn going to Ohio State. I've got him at 9. Dorian Bruce going to Oregon. Lamont Rogers is going to Missouri. The thing about that is, other than the two kids going to Oregon, Dorian Brew and Decorian Moore, nobody in the state of Texas has signed more than one prospect, or committed, I should say, other than Texas. I've got Texas with 2 kids inside the state top 10 before Jonah Williams announces. So is Texas getting out recruited? Yes. I think from a much larger scope, because they're not hitting the number 1 player in the state. They're not hitting the number 2 player in the state. They're not hitting the number 3 player in the state. But it's not one school that's out recruiting them. The cycle is out recruiting them. I don't know. It's a difficult question to ask. This recruiting class needs to be better.
Well,
but
Ohio State has two guys from the state recruited, right? The top 5 guys.
What's
Sanchez
that?
Ohio State has Sanchez and Pettyjohn, correct?
That's correct. Ohio State and Oregon both have 2.
Okay.
You're right. I'm sorry. They have 2 and Texas has 2. So Oklahoma's getting ready to add the first kid off the state of Texas top 10 that they have a commitment from. And as I scroll down, the next highest that I have is them at 27. Here, let me just, so that nobody thinks that I'm, Catch is using his rankings and they're biased. If I type in Oklahoma, 22, they've got a quarterback named Kevin Sperry, who is the number 22 ranked prospect in the state. That's their highest commitment. The next one is at 41. So they don't have a top 20 in-state commitment from the state of Texas at this point. Sounds like they're getting ready to spend a whole bunch of their money on Fasusi that they haven't had to spend on anybody else. If you look at Texas A&M right now, and you look at the same state of Texas rankings that Rivals has put together, not me, but Rivals, the highest ranked recruit in the class for them is Keody Armstrong at 13. Dejon Petaway's at 17. DJ Sanders is at 20. Landon Rink is at 21. They're doing a good job recruiting this year at A&M. Kelshawn Johnson is at 24, but they don't have anybody ranked in the top 10. And when we talk about super blue chips, the only guy from the state of Texas that they would have a commitment from is Keody Armstrong. So who is out recruiting Texas? They're getting out recruited amongst the top players in a lot of cases inside the state of Texas by the nation. But individually, it's not like they're looking at themselves and saying, how have we let A&M get the upper hand on us? How have we let Oklahoma get the upper hand on us? Oklahoma has more money to spend because they haven't spent as much, I think, or will spend as much in their recruiting class. They don't have as deep of a roster, so they don't have quite the amount of money already into the team. They're choosing Michael Fasusi as a guy from a shopping standpoint that they're willing to back up the Brinks truck for. And Texas doesn't feel that way about Michael Fasusi. Now, we can argue the merits of that decision, but Texas just hasn't engaged at that level. And it's one of the reasons, as this kid gets ready to make a decision at 3 o'clock, orangebloods.com does not have anybody at Louisville High School. It's a waste of time. And Onwar, we're on the same team. Recruiting's not going as well for Texas as it needs to go. But it's not as simple as you got to stop this school from taking all of your cornbread. It's just not. Now, all things being equal, they probably need to stop Oregon from coming in and occasionally taking their cornbread. And Ohio State, every year, Ohio State, it seems like, is good for a player or two in the state of Texas. But the way we traditionally think about this conversation centers around Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, maybe even throw in LSU. And from the 4 schools that regionally have permanent flagpoles planted in the state of Texas, those schools aren't out recruiting Texas in Texas. But Texas doesn't have the class that it probably needs and definitely wants.
Well, I know you guys had a super chat come in, so Chad, you want to get to that one?
We got a couple that came in here. Let me get y'all's thoughts on this phrasing. $4.99 from Jamie. Thank you, Jamie. We pulled the reins. Better for the program to get turn time. No one is getting both. To be clear here, Catch, Turntine is a badass tackle in the next class, correct?
He's expected to be a 5-star in the 2026 recruiting class.
In the 2026 class. Okay. What do you feel about the phrase pulled the reins, as if Texas backed off on Fasusi because
the thing that makes you say to make yourself feel better about losing out on something like, yeah, we didn't want him anyway. It's like, you asked the woman out at the bar and you ask her for her phone number. She's like, no. You're like, I didn't want to talk to you anyway. You ain't all that. Like, are we acting like it seems a little disingenuous? And Jamie, I hear what you said. Of course, I think Jamie's also told me to go home. So because of that, by the way, I am home.
I was going to say, well, that's easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy. So Jamie, because you showed me love, I'll show you love back. So we can work that. We can work it like that. It seems like the thing you're telling yourself to feel better about a loss Catch like, we'll just want the other. Well, there's no guarantee because that guy's not committed, right?
Correct.
So that's it seems like an easy thing to say without having a verbal commitment from that guy.
The most truthful thing about that entire super chat is Jamie's probably right. No one's getting both. Now, if you're Oklahoma, you might be saying, well, we thought we were going to get turn time anyway. So this works out great for us because of the two, we probably had a chance with one. And now that we get that one, like, I don't think they're going to be in it for turn time. Yeah, man, look, you can make the case that for Texas, it would be better to get turn time than it would be to get Fasusi, in part because maybe you're spending less money on the whole, dead money, right? If you bring in Fasusi and it takes a couple of years to get him on the field, are there better ways to spend that money? If you have turn time come in, he's not sitting maybe as long because he's not having to wait behind Trevor Gooseby potentially as long as maybe Fasusi would that extra year. I'm a bird in the hand guy, though, when we're talking about 5 stars. I mean, would I rather have a 5-star today definitively or hope and pray and wish that in a year from now you also get a 5-star? It's a dangerous way to live. It's kicking the can down the road. That being said, it might be smart economics. It might be smart planning. It's a different way of thinking about building a roster because in every year up until this one, the idea is to get as much talent as humanly possible, damn everything else. And we're hearing now, and I will just say this, though. I've been saying since before guys were taking their official visits in June, before Michael Fasusi took his official visit, I was told, and I reported, Texas doesn't plan on having the big NIL discussions, the biggest, with anybody during the summer. And in June, before they took the visits, it kind of fell on deaf ears because guys were taking their visits. So that seemed a hell of a lot less interesting than Michael Fasusi shows up on the 21st. Got to blow that visit out of the water. Got to, make him come out of this visit thinking about Texas instead of Oklahoma. They didn't talk NIL with him. And I think they've only talked NIL seriously with a handful of guys. They did with DeCorey and Moore, and in the end, their NIL money didn't beat out Oregon. So in that one, I don't feel like the conversation's the same as it is with Fasusi. I think they probably had NIL discussions with Jonah Williams. I don't think there's any other way you could get Jonah Williams than by having a serious NIL discussion with him. I don't think all of the other schools can do it. And you're like, yeah, man, we'll do that in a couple of months. So I think something's happened there. But with Fasusi, it's been known. When are they going to do it? When is it going to happen? There was a moment where I thought, okay, well, maybe the Fasusi thing, because he's going to announce in August, it will happen in August. And yet when I checked with the source, what is it, the 21st, a couple of weeks ago, when I said, hey, you guys are going to have that discussion, right? You guys are talking with Fasusi. You're going to do the NIL thing. And I was told, probably not. Probably not. And, it is
so
every
basically
is different, but Fasusi's is uniquely different than most of the recruitments we're talking about.
Because just all BS aside, right? It essentially it boils down to, from an NIL perspective, Texas is cash poor. They got enough money to pay the bills. They got enough money to get by. But as far as having a bunch of extra, not so much. Is that what, in layman's terms, is that what we're saying?
Possibly. I mean, look, I think they've spent upwards they've got commitments, financial commitments, upwards of $20 million on this year's roster for the 2024 Longhorns. I don't know. And I think they've had to scratch and claw and lean on a select few people to get that done. Now, to get that done, it sounds like I'm saying it in a way that's insignificant. That's as much money as anybody in college football has spent. It feels like to me that the brakes have been applied. Now, are they cash broke? Man, that feels strong. They're about to get Jonah Williams, so they're not so cash limited that they can't do that, but they're having to pick and choose their spots. That's not what they've done in the past. In the past, they've gone after as many great players as they can get. They've never had their foot on the brake once. In 2025, they've got their foot on the brake a little bit in some of these recruitments. And we can debate whether or not they're picking the right spots. Because, I don't know how many wide receivers they need. They may get commitments from Khalil Lockett and Jamie French, but are both of those guys going to come in and play right away next year? I mean, I don't think so. Like right away, starting jobs. Is Jonte Cook not going to be here? What are you doing with Ryan Wingo? Are you not going to go out into the portal and get the next Isaiah Bond if he's available and wants to come? So, I have questions about some of the decision making that's being made in this class. I understand the Fasusi thing, but if it was me and I could make it happen, I would say you go get Michael Fasusi by any means necessary. Texas does not agree with me. Texas football has a different opinion of how they value Michael Fasusi and what they should do from an at-cost standpoint to go get him. We disagree. I would say there's no player other than maybe DeCorian Moore that would be more valuable to a recruiting class this year in state than to be able to get Michael Fasusi. Texas football does not agree with me. And the evidence of that is not even engaging in real dialogue conversations with Michael Fasusi about what an NIL situation at Texas might look like. They just haven't done it. I don't agree with the approach. Like I may be trying to explain some of the decision making. Don't take that for this is the supports. Jeff Ketchum supports every decision. I don't. But there's an explanation behind it to some degree, even if I don't agree.
All right, another super chat came in, fellas, kind of along the lines here. This is from Jay, one of our favorites. What's up, Jay? $5. Thank you so much. How come every year we are surprised a kid went elsewhere, but the opposite never happens? Last time the big recruit surprised and picked us on commit day.
I mean, I don't think there are a lot of surprises, Jay, in recruiting anymore. Really. Everybody knew.
Yeah, because you can't call today a surprise. He says we are surprised the kid went elsewhere. Who's going to be shocked that Fasusi picks OU today?
I feel like that's been the thing for a couple of weeks now.
Right.
I do think, though, look, they got Xavier Filsaime late last year. That was a surprise. Texas hadn't even offered that kid 12 months ago. And then really late, Florida football fell apart, and they backdoored their way into a 5-star kid from McKinney. Like, that's a surprise. Now, did it happen on signing day where there were 5 hats at a table and then Texas? That rarely happens. Who was the kid?
There was another surprise too, Catch. The kid, the receiver from Calabasas.
Butler?
Yeah.
Butler, yeah.
And that's a good one. That's actually a good one, Onwar. That was one of those where late we had heard and had been reporting, watch out for Texas and Aaron Butler. That seems to be a thing. And nationally, people weren't hearing that. So you're right, Onwar. The Aaron Butler has to qualify to a certain degree because national reporters were thinking that kid was going to stay out on the West Coast. And it was only really reporting on the Texas side that we're giving any indications. It's hard, though. Like, if we're doing our job correctly, you shouldn't be shocked. Like, I failed at my job if Michael Fasusi shows up today and picks A&M. It's like, well, I can come back and say, well, I mentioned at the beginning of House Divided that Texas is probably not in the top 2 and it's between A&M. I've been saying Oklahoma for weeks. So if he doesn't pick Oklahoma, I did a bad job. I was wrong. I didn't have my finger on the pulse. But
Jason literally revealed that he doesn't make long distance drives unless he knows that a guy is committed. Jason literally tipped his hand in this recruiting cycle to something that I never knew. And not every fan was like, "Are you driving there, Jason?" Because now everyone wants to know Jason's driving.
We would have had somebody there if we like Jason. Jason's not at all of these things. We freelance guys. We have people who make trips. Don't let Jason like manual labor his way. Oh, because it's funny. We were talking about Jonah Williams and what we're gonna do. We think that kid's going to Texas, and Jason's like, I don't know that I want to make a 9-hour back and forth
Galveston.
Maybe we should have some options for how we do coverage. I was like, oh yeah, let's figure it out. That doesn't include necessarily Jason having to pull 9 hours back.
If Jason doesn't go to Jonah Williams, he's going to have everybody freaked out this weekend.
No, it'll come down to, do you guys have somebody there? That's the question.
No, if it's not Jason, it doesn't count.
Oh, it does. It always
He literally has said, if a guy ain't committing, I ain't going.
I mean, I can run off a list of commitments that counted that Jason wasn't there in person for.
Do you think that accounts for anyone's superstitions, Catch? You're
inventing a superstition that I'm not aware of exists.
He literally told me on the show this week that he doesn't go somewhere unless he knows a guy's committing.
Okay, well, where's he gone? That's what I'm saying.
But
I don't know. I don't have.
But Onir, that is slightly different than saying every commit that commits when he's not there doesn't commit to Texas. Those are two slightly different arguments.
It's a really good sign if Sukumel's at the announcement.
Yeah,
but he doesn't go to all of the announcements that Texas gets. That's what I'm saying.
A 5-star, he should be there, correct?
I mean, not necessarily.
Then I'm not watching any of the coverage on Saturday. I refuse to watch it.
The reality is the value of that so if Jonah Williams announces on Rivals or 24/7 or On3 or whomever he's going to announce his when he goes live and makes his announcement, the value of having somebody there to then get an interview and get quotes, and it just doesn't mean as much as it used to. It used to be in our industry, the value of that was everything. And weirdly, it's just kind of changed over the course of the last 3, 4, 5 years where, having quotes about why the decision was made, people just move on really quickly in ways that traditionally they didn't. There used to be it's a little bit like when you were first hired at Orange Bloods, it was like, oh, we got to do a post-game article. Got to do a post-game article, have to cover the game in a certain way. And then like 10 years later, it's like, who does game articles anymore, right? The newspaper does a game article, but that's not what people want. So we've adjusted the cover. I would say 3 or 4 years ago, you're exactly right. But now it's actually way more important to have Jason available at his house so that we can do a video right away, so that he can answer questions on the message board, so that you can do all of these things that in 2024 come with the job. So Texas fans, don't freak out when Sukumel's not at Jonah Williams' announcement on Saturday. We will have somebody there.
Yeah.
But the fact that we do this all the time and people don't notice is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a question for you. Chad, you got another super chat.
There is another super chat, but go ahead if you want to ask a question.
No. Well, I'll let the paying customers ask their question.
Okay, Barb's $10. Thank you for that. Anytime recruits shun Texas for Ohio State, Oregon, etc., reasoning is always generalities. Nothing really solid for UT to address, and that's the problem. Kids robbing schools, no honor among thieves.
I don't think that's fair. Those kids that picked Oregon and Ohio State, they preferred Ohio State and Oregon over Texas. That's their reasoning. It's a reasoning that Texas fans, which is short for fanatics, they can't wrap their head around, because all you Texas fans mostly know is loving Texas. How could anybody choose some other school over Texas? And you can rattle off the list. Austin is great, and the football program is great, and the academics are better than they are. Some of these kids just want to go to Ohio State. That's the reasoning. So, what is it that Texas needs to address? They need to win more games over a longer period of time so that as a football factory and as a football institution, they don't, in some kids' minds, feel inferior to Ohio State.
And you know what, too, Catch? Two things I remember from those things that we read recently with Decorian Moore. You remember when his mom left that Oregon visit? Remember when she was saying, that's someone that'll take care of my boy? I feel that about him. Fasusi, when he came out in one of those recently, he said something about how things felt like family. How much his family really loved that when he started talking about things. So there was somewhat of a connectivity towards family that immediately after certain things, it was like these guys, they admitted that the family connection was there. Now, look, it can be as simplistic as everybody in the family knows I'm about to make money, right? And that's fine too, right? But there also was these other things as well.
One of the things that's unique about Oklahoma, and I think it was the first time where in my brain, I went, uh-oh. I did the Carl Lewis national anthem. It's when Oklahoma got a commitment from Michael Fasusi's best friend to be a walk-on at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, that feels like a real advantage in their hip pocket in terms of tugging on the heartstrings of a guy that you want to land. It was something that Texas didn't have. It's something that A&M doesn't have. And right about when that happened is when some of this language that's been used around feelings about Oklahoma and family atmosphere and those things, it's when they started to happen. You started to feel from the Texas side a little bit like, I don't know if this is going to happen. I do think it's interesting, though, that when Sukamel was checking with sources yesterday, that they didn't know. Like, they think they know, but they think they know what was going to happen, but they don't know. I don't even know what that means. But I'm reminded of when Kelvin Banks originally committed to Oregon. Texas thought he was going to go to Texas, but they didn't know. And when they didn't know, what they didn't know was that Kelvin Banks was having Zoom calls with Oregon and A&M on the day of his announcement, and Texas wasn't even in the picture. Texas didn't know that. What they thought they knew versus what they knew were completely different things. It might actually give an indication of just maybe how far away they end up being on this Fasusi thing at the finish line. Maybe they had the lead at the 1/3 mark of the race. Maybe they were neck and neck at the 2/3 mark. But as this thing has hit the home stretch, it's a little bit like when Shakari Richardson did the head turn in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. That's Oklahoma at the finish line on this one. They are looking back and like, okay, we won this thing in the end, maybe convincingly, because if Texas isn't going to, if Oklahoma's going to say, we're going to give you more than $1 million, you're going to be able to start and play right away. You've got the family relationships. You've got the walk-on who's your best friend. And oh, by the way, like, the other schools that you're looking at can't offer all of those things. And some of them aren't even engaging in real NIL conversations, letting you know that you can get 7 figures there like you can get here. In the end, OU, I think it feels like they've pulled away.
So, Catch, so here's my question to you. All right, so Fasusi's gone. Give me the constellation prizes, right? Because I see of what's left, I only see 4 potentials here, and it needs to be a combo of it, right? I don't think it could be just you get Michael Terry and you miss Jamie French and Jonah Williams and Nick Brooks, right? So give me is there a combo of a constellation prize that when it's all said and done, like if you get Jonah Williams and French, or you get Jonah Williams and Terry, or Jonah Williams and Brooks right now, and we're talking about end of August, right? I'm not factoring in this flipping thing that you may or may not be able to, people always talk about that, I got into a conversation with someone behind the scenes it's like, you guys doubt us. You forget about Kelvin Banks. You forget about him flipping. I was like, well, the coach got fired. All right, like let's just you can't account for the coach getting fired. The coach doesn't get fired. There's no Kelvin Banks. You win, but anyway. Give me the combo. Give me the constellation combo.
Well, I think they're sitting at 3 super blue chip level. I don't include the quarterback, KJ Lacey, but Rivals does. But for me, when it's all said and done, I think Nick Townsend, I think Khalil Lockett, and I think Lance Jackson are legit super blue chip prospects. I think the same is true. Forget about Nick Brooks. I don't think that about him. Now, Texas may think of him in that light. I don't. I do with Jonah Williams. I do with Michael Terry, and I do with Jamie French. That gets Texas to 6 legitimate super blue prospects. Now, the thing that we're doing right now, we're just counting super blue chips. What we're not counting is, did they address their needs as well as they need to? On just the flat surface, if they get French, Terry, Williams, and look, I might think they're going to sweep the board of those 3, but it hadn't happened yet. And I think you just said it. If you don't get one of those 3, it feels like a push to a certain extent. Oh, you won 2, you got 2. That's not a clip that Texas necessarily wants to be doing every single week. I think, though, that if they sweep the board, they're sitting at 6. My general rule of thumb is if Texas, on the average, can get 6 or 7 super blue chips in a class. This isn't anything new that I've said. I've said this now for, I don't know, I've said it for a couple of months now. After looking up the rest of the country, looking at the data, and saying, okay, this is what you need to be doing every year. If I'm not mistaken, last year, Texas only signed 5 super blue chips from the Rivals rankings last year. So they would be in the ballpark of what they did a year ago if, and I know you said you didn't want this, but I'm going to give it anyway, if they are able to flip a kid or 2 before signing day. And they've done that every year. I can't tell you who it's going to be necessarily. And if it's a guy like Myron Charles, who's a defensive tackle committed to Florida State, that doesn't really hit with me. I think Texas coaches would be really excited about, hey, we got another defensive tackle. And I would go, okay, well, that guy's a 1-5, a 1-4 guy. So how excited do I really need to get about that one? But if they can flip a couple of big names, then when the season is over with the totality of what they've done, I think we'll be just fine. Now, if we're talking about needs, what were the big needs in this recruiting class? Linebacker? I mean, they need more work. More needs to be done at linebacker, period.
They lost a guy who was committed, correct?
They did, but that guy didn't matter. I mean, I don't mean to be like rude about it
to somebody.
But look, I think people that watch the show know I don't lose sleep over guys who aren't elite of the elite prospects, because why would I ever lose sleep over something that only pans out successfully 15 to 20% of the time? I mean, it happens, but it happens at the rate that it happens at. And, you can get a guy to replace that guy who hits at roughly the same rate, even if he's ranked a little bit lower. So I'm looking at the elite of the elite of the elite guys. I think Texas will hit the required quota. I think the thing that you would be a little upset about is, are any of them linebackers at this point? Nope, not yet. Are any of them defensive tackles? Maybe you can get the Lance Jackson, he can be a guy that's a cure for all needs along the defensive line. Maybe. Is it an offensive lineman? Is it a left tackle? No. Is it a quarterback? No. I mean, you start to hit what are the most important positions in football? Quarterback, left tackle, maybe like a cover corner, edge player. Their needs are at linebacker. I think my biggest concern about this class right now is it feels a little more like a Tom Herman class than it feels like the Steve Sarkisian class that we've kind of grown accustomed to, where it's like, did they get a quarterback? Yep. Did they get a running back? Yep. Did they get a wide receiver? Yep. Did they get an offensive lineman? Yep. Did they get an edge player? Yes. Did they get a cornerback? Yes. Did they get a safety? Yes. It's like, okay, they pretty much got everything that they needed other than defensive tackle. This year's class, more than half of the super blue chips that they might bring in might be receivers and or one defensive back. That's a little bit like that 2018 class where Texas signed a top 5 class and they killed it in state, but it was a whole bunch of kind of the same. It was a 7-on-7 recruiting class. And I think one of the things I would say about this current recruiting class is if you're not going to sign a big time offensive lineman, if you're not going to fill big time needs at linebacker, and they might still do that, but it hasn't happened yet. If defensive tackle is the biggest need you have, and you only big time guy you've got is a guy that might slide in from strong side defensive end, have you done enough? And I think that this class could be better in the area of the needs they most, I think, need to address. But I would also say the program is mostly in the type of shape, other than defensive tackle and maybe at linebacker, where you don't feel like there's a drastic need anywhere, as long as you're constantly every other year signing a big time prospect or two at those positions. You can survive 2025 because of what you've done in 2023 and 2024. But I think it does then put a lot of pressure on 2026, Chad, to get a John Turntime, because in 2025 you didn't get Fasusi, Rogers, Ty Haywood. It's very disappointing that there are 3 5-star offensive linemen from the state of Texas, and none of them are going to Texas, and none of them are staying in state. Kind of, it is what it is. Like, that can't – A&M's having the same conversation. When this is over with today, they're going to go, wait a minute. Fasusi, Haywood, and Rogers, we didn't get any of them? Whatever the excuses are, and sometimes an excuse is just a reason, but they're not good enough. You have to be able to get guys like that. You can't have years where 3 5-star offensive linemen are within reach, and whether you choose or not to go after and make sure you get one of those, you have to get one of those. Texas at this point isn't. That is a mini failure. It's not good enough. They needed, and they still need, to pull that kind of talent acquisition off. And just because you're cash strapped or because you've allocated your dollars elsewhere doesn't mean that stops being a failure. It just means you've given yourself a decent alibi to excuse why it didn't happen. But at the very root of all of this, recruiting is about acquiring talent. And if you fail to acquire the elite talent that's in your backyard, I mean, that's not good. And it can't be excused away completely.
So let me ask you, Chad, before you jump in, I just got one more thing that I want to at least ask. I actually had 2 more things, but the main thing I want to ask you this catch. If Texas is facing the challenge right now of figuring out where to allocate the money, and they want to be smart about it, I use a little bit of the term money ball, but it may not be to that extreme, but there is some, okay, for this, that might be too much for us. Maybe we should spend on this, so on and so forth. This is probably a better value. So on. Okay, got it, right? And I know you're never a guy to yell fire in a crowded theater. But if Texas is struggling with 85 scholarships in NIL, what does a struggle look like at a $105 catch where there's that much more? And so they maybe have other programs that can say, you know what, we got an extra 20 here, and guess what? We don't got any problems with NIL. So you know what? All these other guys that maybe Texas could say, hey, well, we can get this one for this price. What's to stop another program from saying, we can top that price as well? It didn't, all of a sudden we were just getting pushed down and down and down. Like, my concern becomes what happens at 105 if 85 is suddenly a struggle.
I think I'm glad you asked that. I don't have a great answer for this, but I think it's a fascinating question. You asked Steve Sarkisian about this last week or on Monday, and I thought his answer was actually good, right? It's, well, some of those got to be portal. Some of those we will, we're kind of thinking, yeah, we can. It's not finalized, but you can take a few more high school guys. Then he also made mention of, well, what does that mean for our walk-ons? Will we just never have any walk-ons? Now, when that thing first came out of the lawsuit, that one of the end results of this would be a boost from 85 to 105. I think there was a whole lot of, oh shit, man. That's Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama just going out and getting 20 more guys to like boost their roster in ways that the other schools across America can't get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's how it's going to turn out. I think these schools are shaking their heads a little bit, and they want to romanticize these walk-ons to such a degree that I think every school is going to save a slot. But the thing is, they won't be on scholarship. They won't be walk-ons anymore. They'll be scholarship guys.
Correct.
So why would you romanticize? It's like, oh, God, we really liked it when we had guys that paid their own way. What are you going to do? Well, I guess we'll reward the guys that now you're not romanticizing anymore. Now you've made them scholarship players. But I don't think – I'm curious to see how the Ohio States and the Georgias of the world treat this. I think Texas will go out and get more talent. They'll sign more guys. I think it'll probably be 4 or 5 more high school guys. Although Sark said this week, he said 25 pretty emphatically.
Mm-hmm.
And he's never done that before. If you remember just a couple of years ago, I was imploring them to use more numbers in the portal. And I was like, you can't take more than 25 high school guys. And Sark was like, no, I can take 35 high school guys. You can't tell me not to take high school guys. I found it interesting that he said 25 as like a firm number. And then it didn't sound like he wanted to go much further north of that, which would indicate more portal. It might indicate what they'll do with some of these numbers. But look, starting next year, there won't be walk-ons. So maybe this is a short-term deal where they don't want to just turn everybody away. I tell you what it might be, which you might see more of in the future, Onwar, that you can't completely account for now. Oklahoma is going to put Fasusi's friend on scholarship. He announced that he's going to be a preferred walk-on. But there's not going to be preferred walk-ons moving forward. There's just going to be 105 guys.
Yeah.
And what you'll be able to do with that 20 is, I think there will be coaches who say, you know what, couldn't do it with 85. But with 105, if a couple of his boys want to come with him, we'll take them.
But they got to do NIL deals for the boys, and that's the thing. The scholarship's not the thing, Catch. It's the NIL stuff. So I'm like,
well, not everybody gets paid NIL. That's just not what. Not all 85 guys on the roster are privy to, the same NIL. Most of the guys that I say, I don't. You said, Texas lost a linebacker earlier. And I was like, yeah, that guy doesn't matter. That guy wasn't getting paid NIL by Texas. Correct. If he was, peanuts.
But Catch, I will put on my forecaster Swami Chris Berman hat and predict. But when that happens, the thing is going to be, they're paying all these 3 stars all that kind of money. Texas don't want to pay those 3 stars that kind of money. Like, yeah, we may be missing out on some folks, but we're not paying that. And then that just becomes my concern.
That's smart. You told we were having a conversation a week ago about someone you had spoken with, and that person told you, shit, man, Baylor is paying more for a 4-star than Texas is.
Yeah.
And my response to that was, good. That's what Texas shouldn't be pissing away money at high rates on guys with low returns on investments.
Well, they're not pissing away money on people with high rates and the high return of investment either.
Well, no, but that's an ingenuous thing to say. If we look at a football team that we're literally talking about being in the top 5 in the country, and they're there because they've spent a ton of money. So we
Sure,
can't
but,
say,
but we're also saying they didn't want to spend the money on Decorian Moore, but they didn't want to spend the money.
well, no,
on
they
Fasusi.
offered Decorian Moore a shit ton of money. Like they offered him more than $1 million. They did not and have not done that with Michael Fasusi. They offered Decorian Moore more money than they've ever offered any player ever in NIL, and he chose Oregon. Now, that's tough to stomach if you're Texas, but that's what happened. With Fasusi, they flat out not engaged. They're not the two things. And the thing is, I don't think this would be an issue if Texas was like Oregon and they only had, going into the offseason, Oregon had 10 super blue chip prospects on their roster. Whereas the schools that they're really competing with at the top, Texas, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, they've got more than double that number. So for Oregon, from a talent standpoint, to close the gap, they've had more money to spend because they don't on their roster have as much money already tied up. Now it's a little bit different. It'll be interesting. Will Oregon ever have any money issues? Will it always be endless? But one of the things with Oregon is it's like some of those other teams when we were looking at the top 10 earlier, whether it's Tennessee, whether it's Auburn or whatever, those schools may be telling themselves, hey, what's our budget? Well, if Texas and Alabama and the Georgias of the world can afford 20, we need to be prepared and willing to match that. So maybe the commitment is there to do that, but they don't have the roster yet to do it. So it means that in recruiting, they can go out and do what a Texas Tech did with Micah Hudson last year. Micah Hudson's like, look, we can't afford 20 Micah Hudsons, but we can pay one Micah Hudson whatever the hell he wants. There will be schools that are, and I think Oklahoma falls into that category a little bit. They have roughly half the number of super blue chips on their roster as Texas does. So when one wants to go to Oklahoma, Oklahoma has, in theory, a little bit more room to give that guy money because those resources are not going to Oklahoma doesn't have a Brandon Baker on its third string right now getting paid $700,000. Like that doesn't exist. Texas does. And if the bean counters at Texas say, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If you told us 6 months ago that this guy was going to be third string, we probably would have said, nah, man, let's not do that. Those are conversations that are taking place this year that probably would have been really good a year ago when Brandon Baker was saying, I'm going to the school that pays me the most amount of money that I can get in NIL, and Texas was in the mix. Someone should have said, do we think Brandon Baker is going to play next year? And someone would have said, well, no, Kelvin Banks is back, and we think Cam Williams is going to be a starter. We think he might be so good that he only plays for 1 year. It's like, oh, okay. Well, it's good to know. Is that what we want to do? Do we want to have a guy on the bench making high six figures if he's not going to play? Do we definitely know that Brandon Baker is going to play in year 2? And I think the answer would be, yeah, we think he will. He's got to beat out Andre Kojo. And, we got to make sure that Michael Fasusi could come in and take the job. But you could talk about these scenarios. But I think
it goes back to what you have always said, Catch, which is, and I know we got super chats piled up. It goes back to what you always you've advocated for, which is more portal activity.
Yes.
More proven products in the portal. And if you spend the money there, you have a pretty good idea what the ROI is going to be as opposed to the high school thing.
And I think for the first time, and I think Sark's answer on Monday gave this away a little bit. Because I think Sark 2 years ago would have been, hey, man, we might go 35 this year. If they're going to give us, 105, yes, hell. I think Sark has come around on the portal. And I think the money guys definitely believe the best money that we can spend is on the portal. It is, you know what you're getting. And Brandon Baker right now is the best example of, look, man, these guys only hit, and I'm not saying Brandon Baker's going to not be a success, but the math is the math. We know that getting a 5-star prospect works 50, 60% of the time. It kind of depends on the position. Quarterback's a little higher. Offensive linemen from the state of Texas, they've only been hitting at 33% over the course of the history of the rankings, which means of the 3 offensive linemen that I mentioned earlier, Rogers, Haywood, Fasusi, the math, the historical reality is that one of those 3 will hit and the other 2 won't, just based on the numbers over the course of 20 plus years. I do think Texas will move more to an investment model that has more impact transfers than potentially impact. Because I would say this, let me ask you a question, Onwar. If let's say you had $750,000 in NIL,
Okay.
and next year there's a hole on the roster, let's say right tackle, okay?
Okay.
Would you rather give that money immediately to pick your tackle, Michael Fasusi, in recruiting, even though I don't think anybody thinks of him as a right tackle? He's a guy that would need to really bulk up to be what Texas wants at right tackle. But you can pick anybody. You can go through the high school ranks and give somebody $750,000 and say, we absolutely need you to play right away, right tackle, start next year. Or would you rather potentially tamper, but not, maybe not, but pay $750,000 for a proven right tackle starter with major college experience?
I would do exactly what Texas did this year, which is we need a defensive tackle. So you take that $250,000 and say, Bill Norton, here's a little money. Jermaine Lole, here's a little money, right? And so again, for the price of one, I can get 3. I can grab 4 guys out of Porter. In the price of one Decorian more, I can grab Isaiah Bond, Silas Bolden, Matthew Golden, right? And I can put all these guys in here, and that's what I feel like they're doing. They're saying I can get 1 high school guy or 3 portal guys at one position. You know what? 3 is better than 1, because if one of those hits and I got backups, that's better than banking on this one person who may or may not hit. And I think that's what you're seeing in real time.
But that's a message you can't convey publicly.
You can't, but you can.
Yes.
But the lack of sometimes the thing, sometimes we say no comment is the comment. And sometimes it's not about the things you say, it's about the things you don't say. And you don't say it, but I can spend all this on one, or I can get a bunch of these guys and fill up my roster. Well, why not just get a bunch of them and fill up my roster, all different kinds of positions, a bunch of DBs, a bunch of defensive tackles, a bunch of receivers. And I got veteran guys who are proven. I'm not even guessing all anymore.
But that's a change of mindset from Sark from just maybe even 9 months ago. Whereas 2 years ago, I felt like I was, people were like making fun of me. Oh, quit telling Sark that, me and Sukamel probably still don't agree on the transfer portal. He thought it was a complete waste of time. And I was like, no, you got to see where this thing is going and what it eventually can become. And I think Sarkisian in real time is evolving from just a couple of years ago. He would have stocked up on high school guys. But what he also now knows is 2 years later, it's like, God, all those high school guys that I took, they left already.
Well, and by the way, the people who cut the checks are like, hey, man, so we're not going to keep doing this. So here's kind of what a budget looks like, right? Because, your kids start spending a little bit too much and they buy this here, to buy this here. And, Catch, you got kids and you'll spend on something expensive and they'll play for it for a week and then they never play for it again. You're like, well, why did I just drop all this money on this thing? These kids don't play on it. So eventually you're like, okay, listen, kids, you can't just get Robux every single week just because
you're speaking my language now.
You can't get Robux every single week. So you know what? You can get it once a week, once every 2 weeks. You're on a budget.
All right, we got super chats piled up. Catch, you want to let Anwar go at this point, or do you want to go? Do you want Anwar? You want to sit through the super chats?
It's up to Catch. It's you guys.
Let's keep him through the super chats because there might be something there that's people have asked the super chats while he's been here. Plus, if there's another Macho Man super chat,
and apparently Jamie said he when he told me to go home is because of my Macho Man, not because he didn't like my takes.
I like your Macho Man. I would have you do it again.
So I don't apologize, Jamie, but
they told me my Macho Man sounded like I was taking a dump on War. So just so you know, Chad's apparently the only one that gets to do a Macho Man impersonation. And he doesn't get made fun of.
Wow. That is not true.
By the way, Chad.
Yes.
Wake up! Tell us about sinus and snoring specialists.
I do have to do that at some point, but
do it. He asked for it. Give it to the man.
He asked. All right.
So I guess water.
I guess I do have to do that. Anwar can get a sip of water and Catch can maybe catch his breath. Sinus and snoring specialist is the place that's got me breathing better and feeling better and staying awake during the show. Thank you. I stay awake better during the show because I have better sleep at night. They can get rid of your allergies for good. They can get rid of your snoring, your sleep apnea, all that stuff that I've talked about. My wife, me, so many of you that have gone in there. We do appreciate you telling them that you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. They're the absolute best at what they do. Ear, nose, and throat. There's surgical and non-surgical options because Dr. Slaughter is the absolute best in the business. Go in there, meet him. He'll go through a lot of the options with you. Don't do dangerous stuff like tape your mouth shut. Find out about all your options. At Sinus and Snoring Specialists, feel clear, rested, and healthy. Also, I will bring Catch back in and remind you, he mentioned it earlier. He mentioned this place earlier. Let's just remind you that today in the auction, in the silent auction on orangebloods.com, there is an experience where you get to hang out with us and have a meal and have incredible food and drink. And you can ask Catch whatever you want, Orange Bloods wise. You will have him captive. It'll be a captive Catch just for you. Ask him whatever you want. He will tell you all the crazy inside stories that aren't even fit for Orange Bloods Live. Taste on Main will be there in downtown Buda. Just in case you don't win the auction, go ahead and head on over there yourself. The Saturday and Sunday brunch is 10 to 3. It's an incredible experience. Taste on Main right there in downtown Buda. All right, let's see here if I can work the deal. There we go. Anwar's back from getting a little drink. Let me double check that we didn't get any late super chats, and we'll pile through these. We got 4 of them, I believe, to hit. We'll start, gentlemen, with a 10 spot from Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. Sorry it took a second. At this point, you need to land Jonah Williams and Jamie French, and then just hope Sark works his magic late in the cycle and flips 3 or 4 guys. Wow. Is that a fair number?
I wouldn't anticipate. If they can flip 2 guys that really matter, I think you're kind of cooking with grease if you get the Jonah Williams and the Jamie Frenches and the Michael Terrys. 3 or 4, that feels like too tall of a task.
Yeah, I was trying to look up something, see if I can find it real quick. I knew I had at some point, I wrote something about flips, but if I can find it, I'll see if I can come down and I'll go back to it.
In terms of the quality you're discussing, Catch, to me, that's like a 1 or 2. If it's 1 or 2, that's Christmas. But 4 feels like an extreme thing to be sort of counting on at the end. That feels like too much.
Well, the thing is, you're not going to do it at quarterback. You're not going to do it at running back. You're probably not going to need to do it at wide receiver and tight end. They've chosen on offensive line to not engage at this point. So I don't think one of the flips is going to come there unless they come away thinking to themselves, look, Cam's going pro. We don't think Brandon Baker is ready or ever going to be good enough. Like maybe by November or December, you've seen enough and you have enough because the thing is, like, Cam Williams could come back. I know we talk about like he could go pro, but he also could use 2 seasons as a starter. Like it might be that they don't completely know what they need on the offensive line. So maybe, but I think it's unlikely. I think they're looking to flip D tackles. Yes. I think they're looking to flip linebackers. Yes. And if the right DB popped up, would they do something? Yeah. But does that equal 3 or 4 guys? I don't think so. And plus, they've already flipped 1 D tackle. So, and they would tell you that Josiah Sharma is the guy they needed to flip. And it doesn't matter whether we agree with them or not. They feel like that was their number 1 defensive tackle target. They flipped him. I think there might be one more defensive tackle flip, but I don't know that it's going to be a bunch of guys.
And it would have to be something to catch where, from an NIL perspective, like Texas would have to exceed someone's offer, right? And Texas is not a ton into the bidding war thing.
All right, let's go to Jose Super Chat here. Jose, $4.99. Is it as simple as UT needing to win a national championship game?
I can't play this game. I'll get you, Jose. It's Catch will tell you.
I don't think it's as simple as that.
Well, it's not because they just literally went to the Final Four. And I mean, it wasn't like they got embarrassed. So there seems to be layers. And Jose, my frustration has nothing to do with you. Catch knows for years I have had to deal with all the things it would take for Texas to eventually land all these elite. And like I said, we're finally at this point where I'm like, oh, cool, win the Big 12 championship. They've got to the playoffs. Every coach has got an extension. They've got coaching continuity. Like, all these guys are still here. Like, all right, this is the year. This is the year.
The thing is, like, we need to say this again. And do we – hold on. Let me see if we even have this still downloaded. Sometimes it's important to remind everybody of certain things. It takes a while. Do I have it still in here?
By the way, for the record, fellas, I love how much heavy lifting the word simple is doing in this chat because it's got 2 different meanings at the same time. Is it as simple as followed by something that's not simple? I love that.
I'm going to pop this up, but I don't know that this is what I'm looking for. So forgive me if this turns out to be the wrong graphic. Yep, wrong graphic. Sorry about that. We could probably delete that one. I was looking for the one that has the number of super blue chips, and it's in the form of a chart, and it shows how bad things were and how good things are. And it's important to note that in the history of Texas football, they've never had more super blue chip talents on any team more than they have right now. Now, the last time they had this many super blue chippers on a roster was in 2010, and that went unbelievably sideways. But in terms of sheer volume, it's never been better. Never. And I think when we talk about, like, man, they're broke, or man, they don't want to spend the money, it does, to say it like that, to frame it like that, is to ignore how much money has been spent, because you don't build the roster the way they have in an incredibly short amount of time without really paying some dudes a lot of money. And the question of, are they broke? Have they hit their cap? Now, is it like, these are all fair questions. The context is important, though. Like, can I be mad if they had only spent $12 million and Georgia and Ohio State and 10 other schools, 15 other schools were spending more than them? Then I think you'd go, what the hell's going on right now? But that's not the reality that Texas lives in, or this team or this program lives in. And I do wonder, if they are saying we're going to spend $5 to $6 million on a recruiting class, I do wonder if they've said, hey, hold back a shit ton of money for the portal, because you guys have been telling us we should have went out and got Walter Nolan last year. Well, Walter Nolan would have cost $1.5 million. So if that's the kind of guy we're going to get next year, then we can't be giving Michael Fasusi. Like, we got to pick some poisons. It has not yet played out. We may get to January, and a bunch of you might send super chats that go, Catch and Onir were effing full of it, and they were wrong. Texas just doesn't want to spend money, period. They are busted. They are broke. They are not using that allocation of money in ways that it's going elsewhere instead of improving the team. But we'll see. I'm partially Onir. Let me give it to you like this, and this one may just be for me, you, and a handful of people. You know who hasn't gone out into the transfer window in soccer this year and gone crazy?
Who's that?
Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Now, nobody would say that those three clubs don't spend money.
Correct.
Some spend more money than others, but you start counting what's on the roster, and all three of those clubs would go, we have the highest wage bills in all of the Premier League, and maybe other than Real Madrid or Barcelona in European soccer. We're spending $400 million a year or whatever in salaries. So we didn't think we should go out and spend $100 million on a player this year because we don't even know where we would play him. In soccer, we would go, it makes sense. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're like, yeah, we can't really improve on soccer.
Yes, correct.
Who are we going to get that we think right now is better than Odegaard? Who's better than the defense that we have into place? You might improve in some small areas, and you might tell yourself, well, we could still use a number 9 or a striker. Maybe, but on some level, it's like, well, did they almost get 100 points last year with the team they had? Has there been any turnover at all? And I think some of this is a little bit like Premier League soccer a little bit. I think Texas would tell you all of our money, which is a ton of it, is invested in the current roster. And we're going to maybe spend our money slightly different than we did previously in building the roster. Again, I'm not excusing the decision-making because I don't completely agree with all of it, but I will acknowledge that we may get to next April, and it might make a lot more sense that we might look at it and go, well, they did go out and get another Trey Moore type guy, and they did go out and actually buy a right tackles. And instead of Fasusi, it's a guy who was second team all SEC last year or something like that. So, we do need to see some more cards be revealed.
All right, so I know, Chad, you got a couple things. I just want to go back to the flipped thing. By the way, it was good analogy. Catch, I don't know if you should be more impressed with my recruiting knowledge or soccer knowledge. Either way, it's come a long way, right?
Volleyball clap, my man. Volleyball clap.
Either way. So when we talk about the guy who asked about flips and flipping 4, I knew I had written about this. So in 2022, Catch, Texas had 28 commitments. They flipped 4 guys down the stretch. That was Kelvin Banks. That was a Terrence Brooks, Catch, who you remember, he flipped from Ohio State to Texas on signing day. Gilbo had flipped from TCU is what I had down. TCU and Ethan Burke had flipped from Michigan. In 2023, Anthony Hill flips from A&M in late December. DeAndre Moore flips from Louisville to Texas. So they only had 2. They had 4 the previous year. Last season, to the point that you mentioned Phil Simi flipping from Florida to Texas, and Ty Anthony Smith flips from Chad, from A&M to Texas in late December. Mostly 2, 1 year 4. But the Kelvin Banks thing accelerates and adds a little bit to that. So it's about 2.
All right, we do have a couple other super chats. It's a little bit off topic. So, Catch, why don't you guys, since Anwar's hanging, and I know both of you guys have knowledge, why don't y'all both?
Anwar can go. Like, I feel guilty now. It's been an hour and a half or something like that. So
it has.
Oh, it's like being invited to be on local radio. Like they invite you on and they just never let you off. That's not you, Chad.
Chad's got an uncomfortable smile on his face. He knows.
Sometimes
Chad is just, they just have you go to a location for like 10 straight weeks and never pay you. And at the worst that they do is just give you some shitty ass t-shirt that and act like that's some sort of compensation. That's all that was for Chad. I don't hold on to it, nor am I still doing it.
He doesn't hold on to it, Chad, so it's all good.
If I were him, I'd hold on to it.
I held on to that crappy ass t-shirt for weeks. Hence why, last day I'm gonna go on this note. Somebody Catch, you'll appreciate this. Someone from like the local TV, they came up to me at the media availability. They're like, hey man, we're gonna, we're doing like Sunday, we're gonna have like a rotation of reporters coming, and I just want to see if you're gonna be in the mix for that to come in and talk to Longhorns. I was like, hey, absolutely not. And his face was like, I was like, no, I am not doing that. I said, is it remote by any chances? They're like, no, in studio. I said, definitely not going to happen. Like, I am so sorry. There's someone young. Do you see those young guys over there? They would totally love to eat that up. Dude, I've been there, done that. I can't do that. Good luck to you in your endeavor, but I'm not doing that, especially there's no pay. All right, I'm done. I'll let you guys handle the rest. Good seeing you.
That's Onir Richardson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Onir.
.com. All right, Catch, before we get these next two super chats, why don't you tell the folks about Rogue Shop? I was going to give Onir the chance to talk about Rogue too, but he decided to head on out. So why don't you tell him about Rogue?
I mean, it's real simple. I got my package in the mail. I'll be getting it in the next couple of days. My life will be a little bit better. A little bit of gummies here, a little bit of salve there. Cartridges. I was a little disappointed by the fact that the cartridges aren't on the website, but I can't do anything about that. Come on, state of Texas, or whatever the hell ridiculous rule made that happen. The bottom line is, though, product galore. They got products for pets. They got products for anxiety. They got products for sleeplessness. Man, go over to Rogue Shop. Scan that QR code. They are one of our best partners in so many ways, but almost more than anything else, they're good people with a great product. They are Longhorns through and through. If you're going to spend your money, put it back in the family. And in this case, that family is rogueshop.com. They are our family. Let them be your family. And everybody turns out a winner.
All righty. We did have a lot of a good handful of super chats coming in. Again, slightly off topic here, so we took a little breath. But Mark says for $5, folks at the Costco did not understand Macho Madness as I walked through there a few minutes ago. Y'all need any snacks? We're good, Mark. Thank you, though. Thank you. Thanks, OBL, for all that you do. That's a scary thought that as you and me and Onir were doing a Macho Man impersonation, somebody was hitting Costco. That had to be a little bit scary for Mark.
Oh, remember somebody's in the drive-thru.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What?
Oh, yeah. And we were talking burgers and fries.
That's right.
We might have ordered somebody some fries.
Sir, we don't do cheese fries. I'm sorry. Can't order that. No, that was never mind.
You said
Sorry
queso on this. You said queso on the fries. Here's one from JR I thought was interesting too. Catch $9.99 on a super chat. Thank you, JR. Regarding being out recruited, OU much better at social media presence. Look at Michael Fasusi's Twitter. Texas should have professional followers like OU. It's cheap and can't hurt. How much of that do you think really matters in 2024, Catch?
They don't have a top 20 commit coming into today in the recruiting class.
Oklahoma. Right, okay.
So, I haven't had anybody said, OU, JR, maybe you're right. I haven't heard that that's a thing. I haven't heard that that's a key thing. But if it's cheap and it can't hurt, you might be right. I don't think it's a big deal, though.
Okay. JR, appreciate your super chat.
You know what matters more than that, Chad?
$1
million plus. Like, at the end of the day, Texas could have all of the social media followers in the world, but if they're not going to engage in that part of the recruitment, then how effective would it be? I might offer limited.
Yeah. We cleaned off super chats. If you want to get us one, it'll go right to the top of the list. One thing I wanted to bring up along the line here, Catch, was when you were discussing the NIL part of it, the notion that Texas has not actively engaged maybe with Fasusi. Let's just take that example. I know it's not exactly the same thing. That feels a little bit like you're going through a job interview process and they're not talking money.
It's exactly the same thing.
I mean, it feels like I'm not understanding how could the argument now be, man, we'll get to that. We'll discuss it. It's like, no. I'm trying to make full plans of everything. I need to know what all of that is. I just don't understand the theory from Texas's side. Why is that an advantage not to talk money when now money is a big part of this and it's all on top of the table?
I think it's been a little bit of rhetoric. That I think it's been the rhetoric, but you not necessarily want to give the full explanation. Look, my sources aren't the ones that necessarily have painted the picture. Like, it's taken some deducing. It's taken, I can remember last week it might have been Wednesday or Thursday where I talked to about 5 different people. Just, it kind of happened by chance. It wasn't something that I even woke up that day and intended to do. And I came out of it going, wow, okay. I have a much deeper understanding of this situation and why it might be the way that it is. And I remember writing the column and we did the show. And then I sent the links to sources and they looked at it and they read it and they were like, yeah, no, that's good. That's accurate. But it wasn't, they told me and then I wrote. This whole money's tight and we might not have it. I don't think that's what they want out there, right? I doubt Steve Sarkisian likes us talking about this. But, I think part of the reason why you watch this show and you sign up on Orange Bloods is there's a little bit of an evolved, deeper conversation about some of these things. And so here we go. But this isn't what the mainstream media talks about. And as far as the mainstream media is concerned, Texas has all the money in the world. It's not quite that simple, but for some people's estimations, it is. I don't think in general Texas likes any of this to be discussed. And yet it has to be, because otherwise it just looks like they got their ass kicked on Michael Fasusi. So if you're not talking about this, and if you're not educating people on what's going on, then all you're having is a very cut and dry, did you get him or did you not get him? Don't tell me the whys.
Right.
The whys are important. No. Did you get him or not? Well, no, we got your ass kicked. And without this added conversation, today just looks like Texas got their ass kicked by Oklahoma. And in a bottom line world, they did. They got the guy.
So catch, get ready for a $2 payoff. Google Scholar wanted us to know earlier, y'all skip my super chat. Sorry. Hey, y'all skip my super chat. 3 exclamation points. Our wonderful coworker Sonny jumped in and reminded us that Google Scholar had a super chat. Here is Google Scholar's super chat, $1.99. What are our chances? Yeah, there you go. You know what?
What are our chances? I don't know.
I mean, you talk about $2 well spent.
I love that Sonny was there.
Oh, Sonny was
to police.
There's no way Sonny knew that's what it was. When Sonny typed, there's no way she had looked and seen what it was. Otherwise, she would not have done that.
What are our chances with Hugh Janis? I don't know.
Oh my God, there it is. Yeah, Google Scholar. Well done. Well done. If Google Scholar is going to give the $1.99 catch, pronounce it like he wants you to pronounce it. Go all the way. Come on.
No, I did. Hugh Janis.
Oh, almost. Little change that.
That's what that says. Hugh Janis.
Yeah, it's almost there.
What am I
Google-
doing wrong?
I got him close. I think he wanted, what are our chances with Hugh Janus? I believe would be the.
It's Hugh Janus.
Yeah, but I believe he wanted the A, a long A sound.
Well, then he needed to specify that.
I know. I'm just, he was just
For $5.99, maybe I would have engaged and read it that way.
Now we're overly explaining a blah kind of a joke. So we probably shouldn't.
Those are the best dad jokes.
Those are the best ones. The one you have to overly explain. All right, Catch. Well,
why it's funny, Chad.
Yeah, exactly. Right now is and it is past 1:30, so we know things get weird after 1:30. We did blow right by buy or sell. We might find our way back to that at some point. If you want to throw us a super chat, we can get to that. Also, Catch, I wanted you to talk about one of our great partners. I was reading at orangebloods.com, Alex Dunlap's great work, looking into the defense, Johnny Nansen, how's he going to use Anthony Hill, all that stuff. And, of course, it was sponsored by a partner that's been around with Orange Bloods for a while now, and that is My Perfect Franchise. Tell them a little bit more about Mr. Andy.
I mean, it's real simple. It always starts with, can you do something that changes your life? Because the corporate world might be getting to you. The bosses suck. Ask Chad. Scheduling, that sucks. This time last year, we had Chad doing watch-alongs. Sometimes the schedule sucks. And sometimes there's income limitations. I feel like I'm walking Chad out the door. And then sometimes it's like, no more. Now I need to find a way to diversify my portfolio. Now I want to own a business that's tailored towards me and my strengths, but I need a little bit of help to get there. That's what My Perfect Franchise does. They can help you find a business that fits your skill sets and matches you up with your long-term goals. But that doesn't just happen through magic, although Andy performs magic. He actually does a routine. You just need to ask him. Look, reach out 404-973-9901. Email him, text him, call him, email him. And at the end of the day, it's as simple as this. Are you ready for a change? Are you ready to own your own business, diversify that portfolio, and life gets a little bit better with you pulling the strings and not some boss that you hate? Change your life today. MyPerfectFranchise.net.
There it is. All right, Catch, you want to buy or sell today, or you want to forego?
Let's forego today.
All righty. We can do that. Let's see if there's any other.
Can I catch you off guard with that?
What's that?
Were you prepared for no, can we not? I'm good. The thing is, see, the problem is I talked a whole bunch and you didn't. So I feel like you're being cheated out of words.
Come on. It is Wednesday. What are we going to do? Come on. Yes. And I was expecting that. I'd have been surprised if you went the other way, actually, to be fair.
Well, then let's do it.
Oscar.
Cue up the music.
Oscar for there's no music. There's not been music for buy or sell since 2012?
Well, it's been a minute, but
Maybe,
no, I had music up until like 2016.
That's true. Well, buy or sell may have had music, but it wasn't us with buy or sell. So there you go. $4.99 from Oscar for $5, and for the scholar, what are our chances with you?
Janus.
There it is.
Is that what needed to happen?
That's it.
Okay.
Say it, Catch from. Look at that. You got an extra $5 from.
I know. Just by a little bit of hustle there, Chad. I wouldn't take no for an answer.
Just for a little bit of that. All right.
Janus. I said it twice.
You did. You got it in there. Got it in there. So that one is there. There was another chat. Real quick. You've always said, Catch, nothing good comes from Oklahoma winning, Oklahoma having a victory or whatever. Cotton earlier said, I don't like missing on Fasusi, but I really don't like losing him to OU. Let me take you to Louisville High School at 3:00 this afternoon. Fasusi's, let's say it all just does boil down to OU A&M. As bad as it would be for a Texas fan if he says OU Is it better or worse if he says A&M? For a Texas fan.
I think it's equal. I mean, I don't know. I think it comes down to like personal. Now that everybody's back in the same conference, that tiebreaker doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, so rivalry-wise in recruiting, you'd say those two just sit at the same kind of level, and you don't. If you're a Texas fan, you don't want to lose to either one. And it's equal.
I think it's better for him to go to Oklahoma. You know, the thing, A&M has a nice little recruiting class. They haven't gotten a bunch of elite kids. You know, I think you want that narrative to continue. They're recruiting well, but it's not at a certain level. You know, they get a couple of guys, and suddenly it looks like it's kind of at that level. Oklahoma, they're just not doing a whole lot this year in recruiting. It's not impacting Texas at all. So to get Fasusi, it's like, oh, you know, it's like Floyd Mayweather would occasionally lose a round. But is Texas in danger of losing the fight or the battle to either of those schools from a recruiting standpoint? Not really. No. I think you'd almost at this point be glad that it's Oklahoma and not Oregon or Ohio State. Because you don't want it to be like, well, every time one of those schools gets involved, it's an L. And it's kind of felt that way this year. So that's not how it feels like with this situation with Michael Fasusi. But it sucks. It's on the thumbnail of our video today. It's not a good thing. There's no celebration. You know, it is. Yeah. It sucks. Don't let any of the explanation, any of the backstory, the context. It sucks. Simple as that. I can try to explain why the sucks shouldn't be as sucky as some other sucks, but it still sucks.
Today's show brought to you by Sucks here on House Divided. Thomas, I see your super chat. I grabbed it. We will get to that in a second. Real quick, here's Lisa to remind you about Specs. Thanks to everybody who's in the Specs chat right now.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Same question popped up on the recruiting show today. It's one a lot of people like to know and keep up with. Thomas with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Thomas. Where does this recruiting class finish in your opinion, Jeff Ketchum, as you look forward to what's about to happen in the commitment-wise and then what could happen during the season leading to December and, ultimately February? Where do you think this finishes?
I'll say Texas finishes 7th in the country in recruiting.
Okay. Not quite to the top 5.
Yeah.
Gotcha. If Fasusi were to flip towards the end, that makes it top 5?
Close.
Yeah. You get it there? Yeah. All right. There is the last of the super chats as I see them. By the way, thank you for the super chat crew that's paying attention when I might miss one and it gets by me. Thank you so much. Whether it is about Hugh Janus or not, we are appreciative that you are finding those super chats and you want those to be a part of it. All right. So I think we're just about ready to close up. Anything else you want to hit today, Catch?
No, man. I might go take a nap.
Okay. Only other thing we need to hit today is got a new quick spot for AV consultations. 10
Make
days,
love to your wife.
10 days away from kickoff. Here we go.
With audiovisual consultations, scientific data proves it. Size does matter. The bigger and wider your television is, the better. Football season is here, and the time is now to get your entire audio-video experience tuned up and ready. New flat screens, projection video, Dolby True HD surround, all the goodies at great prices and followed up with great service. So call us at 255-8678. That's 255-8678, or on the web at avconsultations.com.
There it is.
What the hell?
What do you mean, what the hell?
What happened to make love to your wife?
I mean, I'm sure he still wants you to make love to your wife, but, just keep the spot updated and football season's here and all that.
A few things. I like the spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a better spot. In fact, there were a couple of visuals in there where I was like, I wish I had a man cave like that.
Exactly. That's what it did to me too today when I watched it earlier.
So it's a better spot. It makes me feel something, Chad. But look, you're never going to, now that I've had the make love to your wife line in a spot, any spot without it, you know, it's,
Do you want me to go get you like just the little video snippet of him saying make love to your wife? Do you need him to say that to you occasionally?
look, man, I can't explain why the little things in life matter so much.
Yeah. Sometimes
But
it does.
I have looked forward every day to hearing that. Every day it makes me smile.
Uh-huh.
And so not having that's just a one less smile during my day.
Yeah.
It might make me want to buy a big TV more. But, you know, it just kind of is what it is. Steve, if you're watching, you know, next time, slip that back in.
Yeah. Tom is the name. Yes.
What did I say?
You said Steve, I think. Yeah.
Common names that get confused for each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, it always happens. John 199 super chat was huge, a tight end prospect. Oh, well done. Well done, John. We got way too much super chat money out of that idea today.
What, $7? I'm not so sure.
For that joke, I think 7's a lot of money. I really do think it's a lot of money. And speaking of money, let's remind everybody, orangebloods.com.
Ooh, yeah, tell them.
The silent auction is going on today. It's day 3, and part of day 3 is a meal and a full experience at Taste on Main in Buda with myself and with Jeff Ketchum. More importantly, with Jeff Ketchum, because you're an Orange Bloods freak and you can ask him any question you want while having the incredible food and drink. I will have a Sam Elliott's mustache. I guarantee you, I'm going to drink the Sam Elliott's mustache. You can have one too. It's fantastic. You got to get that bid in on the silent auction, and we'll even help you getting in the door of orangebloods.com. How about that? 60% off your first year of an annual subscription. And as Ketch said, this is the Rivals side of it, right, Ketch?
Yes, like that 60% off doesn't come out of my pocket.
That's big.
Or Circamel's pocket. Or Chad Hastings' pocket, if you want to blend it all in together.
Hell yeah.
Yes, this is a win for everybody. You get Orange Bloods on the dirt cheap, and we still get like our part.
Now, that's big.
It pleases me greatly.
That is big. That's big. So the code, again, that you see it there, kickoff 2024. And not only the auction, yes, you'll have the silent auction, but you'll also have all the incredible content, the craziest message board on planet Earth, all kinds of incredible stuff as you get ready for we're 10 days away. 10 days away. Get it done right now. All right. Thank you for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications, all that good stuff. Remember, Football with Friends comes up at 6 o'clock this evening. Tomorrow morning, old fashioned as normal at 9 a.m. And if you are a Prize Pick person, get ready because the Prize Pick show returns tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Hell yeah.
Prize Picks, 10 a.m., Taco Tuesdays, and all kinds of stuff will be discussed, I'm sure, in the Prize Picks
I won
show.
$50 on Prize Picks this weekend.
Did you really?
Didn't win more than that, but like I was a net positive 50.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. That's 50 more than I could talk about because I just missed on my Angel Reese thing. Otherwise, I'd have had some money to talk about, but I do not have money to talk about right now on Prize Picks, but I'll see what I can do. Thanks to everybody for jumping in. We will be back tomorrow. Hey, I'm checking with Brian Jones. I haven't gotten absolute confirmation, but I think Thursdays was good with him last week. So tomorrow, about 1:20 or so, we're going to try to grab Brian of CBS Sports and talk about the first, kind of weekend of college football and get his thoughts on everything. That's tomorrow. And who knows what Brian will reveal. If you caught last week's show, lots of things were revealed. So who knows what'll happen tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, and maybe more Macho Man impersonations on the show.
We do them for money.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow, Super Chats, Macho Man, the